everyone, good evening and welcome to Roma Theory. How is everybody doing? Roma have a new transfer dream. It's not involving a right back, it's involving a left winger, and his name is Galeno from Porto. An absolute gem, an absolute baller. Juventus want him, but Roma are observing the situation, they're observing the deal to try and see if they can try and hijack this. Also seeing the fact that Juventus, according to Di Marzio, are very close and in advanced talks with Nico Gonzalez from Fiorentina. And, you know, the question here is, do they fit both Nico and Galeno? They still need to sell Chiesa. Nobody wants Chiesa. Teams, you know, Juventus are struggling to sell Chiesa, seeing the lack of offers around him. So could they potentially be in a position to keep Chiesa for one more season, even though he's not part of their plans, have Nico Gonzalez and also Galeno, who, yes, Porto are asking quite a bit of money? I don't know. Juventus were leading the race. Now I'd say that Juventus have gone and searched for different objectives, including Nico Gonzalez. Does that mean that he's going to sign Roma? No. For Roma, no. Does this mean that it's going to be a done deal? No, it's not. It's a complicated deal. It's involving a player who's got a lot of competition and is coming from a team which won't let him go very easily. And it's going to be a tough move. But a few sources are saying that Roma are interested in him. A few minor sources are also saying that Lina Soluku met with Galeno's agents yesterday in Rome, and like in the center of Rome. I'm not sure if this is true. Even if this is true, then I would also say that, you know, the agency, the transfer agency that represents Galeno doesn't only represent him. They've got other players that Roma might be interested in. So this news of Lina potentially be meeting with them could be true, but isn't necessarily... it's not necessarily true that it's about Galeno. It could also be about other players. So, yeah, how is everybody doing? Also, Pellegrini speaks up. He got interviewed. He got asked about, Mourinho, relationship with Mourinho. Is it actually true that the relationship between Pellegrini and Roma's ex-manager, Jose Mourinho, has degenerated? And Pellegrini says no. So, once again, we have an example of our captain who isn't strongly emotive, who's a victim of false narration of what goes around in the changing room, what has been going around, the day, the week prior, the day after Mourinho was sacked. All of that was false narration. And we've got our captain, which a lot of people say has got no balls, interviewed, saying that there is no problem with him and Mourinho. And we're going to get into that because I think, again, I defend Pellegrini because I think he's your captain, and I think he's been placed in a position that it's not easy to be a captain after Totti and De Rossi, so of course he's going to struggle with it. I've always defended him. He has had his ups and downs, but as the image of the captain, I've always defended him. I've always not even considered the option of getting the armband away from him. There's a captain at Roma, and this captain is Lorenzo Pellegrini. A victim of hate, a victim of false narration by fans, by the press, and by the media. And he is definitely getting swirled by it, because a Pellegrini without all this media hate around him is a very different player who could also perform on various different levels. So that's that. Now, just before we start, don't forget to hit the like, as always. If we can get 100 likes on this video. Am I asking a lot? No, I'm not asking a lot. I trust everybody here. 100 likes on this video would be great. If everybody can subscribe, it would also be great. We've got 1 week to go until Roma's back. I cannot wait. And the last thing which I want to say is, I have created a Roma Theory 2024-2025 Serie A Fantasy League. So if you want to join and be part of this fantasy league, click the link in the description below, create your team, create your account, follow the instructions, and then join our league with the code, which is also in the description. And yeah, we can have fun. The winner at the end of the season will win a little prize. So if you want to be part, if you want to have fun, if you like fantasy football, if you like Premier League fantasy football, you'll definitely like this one. It's not Fanta Calcio, that's a different one. It's a Premier League fantasy styled Serie 1. So if you're interested, click the link and create your team. And yeah, all of that. Right. Galeno, dream. Hallucination, I'd call it, definitely, because I think if Roma can add a player of Galeno's caliber to the team, I think Roma would go from here to here. And I'm not even exaggerating. You know, I've been very impressed by the quality of signings that we've done. From Sule to Dovbyk, moving on to some generational potential such as Sangare to Enzo Luffy, which, by the way, Sule and Pizzilli both got interviewed over these past weeks, and both of them wanted to make it loud how they've been surprised by Luffy's quality. So yeah, I think it's been a good transfer session. We've got a lot to cover still. We've got a right back. Chivas games. I'm going to answer your question in a second. Speaking about right backs, it's incomplete, but it's not a bad transfer session. And if you can add to this transfer session a player like Galeno, I would go crazy, because I think Galeno is the winger that Roma needs. Now, don't get me wrong. I think we're not used to wingers because Mourinho didn't play with wingers. You know, Mourinho didn't play with wingers. So I think this concept of a natural winger at Roma, we kind of forgot about it, because the last time we had a good natural winger was ages ago. But I just feel like maybe it's the way I see football, maybe it's the way I like football. I think wingers, I mean, maybe it's because when I play football, I'm a winger as well. But I'd kind of say that if you want to be threatening up front, if you want to be deadly up front, I think wingers are the most important position that a team needs to cover. Because if you have got a good winger, I think 80% of your offensive problems are resolved. Again, I'm not a manager, that's the way I see it. Roma lack somebody who we've had in the past, like Salah, like Gervinho, somebody who gets the ball and runs with it and sprints with it and is threatful with it and scores goals, cuts in, shoots, wins penalties. We don't have that. The last player, in fact, no, we do have one player like that, but it's El Shaarawy. Again, I love El Shaarawy, and I would never swap El Shaarawy for Chiesa. El Shaarawy is the perfect second line in that position. I don't think El Shaarawy should be a starting player, however. I love him, but I don't think he should be a starting player. Age, in a bit, he's not going to play. He's not going to stick around for much longer. So you need somebody generational up there. The last player, not counting present players, who Roma have had as a natural winger, I'd say. Somebody who gets the ball, cuts in the box, scores goals, wins penalties, dribbles, skills, that type of winger. The last that kind of winger that we had was Perotti. Perotti was a massively underrated player at this football team. And because he was a winger, I think we lack wingers, and De Rossi wants to bring this concept of a natural winger back in the team. And Galeno is probably, I mean, I've got no problem saying this, better than Chiesa, yes. Out of all the wingers that we've been linked with, he's sensational. He's incredible. He's the natural winger that you need. He's great technical. He's massively, I said it last time. He's that player who, if you've got the ball on the touchline, he would be able to skill the ball around the touchline and still not make it go out. And he's kind of, I think in the system that De Rossi wants to play, alongside Dybala, Sule and Dovbyk, a player like Galeno to De Rossi's system at Roma would be as beneficial as a Sadio Mane was in Klopp's system back at Liverpool, a Gareth Bale was in Real Madrid's system. I'm not comparing Galeno to prime Bale or prime Neymar or prime Mane. No, absolutely not. But what I'm saying here is every good team, every team which scores a lot of goals has a natural winger. And I think, we need a natural winger. A player like Galeno would be unbelievable. Now look, I need to apologize because somebody 2 days ago on the live stream was saying how Porto was asking 40 million to let him go. And I said 25 million is the amount of money that they were asking for. I apologize because I was wrong there. And apparently Porto are asking around 40 million. Now again, 40 million is the initial offer. It's the initial price tag that a team asks for. You know, we've seen it with Sule, we've seen it with Dovbyk. It's the initial price tag. Then, after a process of negotiation, the price tag drops. And it's normal for the price tag to drop. I think if Porto are asking 40 million initially, I think 35 million could end the deal. 35 million is a lot. You know, 35 million is a big investment. But I think if you want to keep this rhythm of, I want to spend big, I want to back the manager by spending big, then I think we should spend maybe 25, 30, maybe even 35 million on a winger. Considering also that we have a right back to cover and also another midfielder and a centre back to cover. We've got a lot to go through in this transfer session. And we're back in this little phase of delay where almost scouting players, understanding costs and feasibilities, understanding what profiles De Rossi also wants. And then I think in a few days, we'll see another signing. So after the enthusiasm from Sule and Dovbyk, we're now back down in a little delay period. We've got the season starting in a week. I think personally to beat Cagliari and Empoli, you don't need Cafu on the right. I think you can spend a bit more time scouting for these players and getting the perfect right back for De Rossi's system. But of course, the earlier the better. No rushing deals, of course. Galeno would be great. It's a lot of money and it's a complicated deal. But if he pushes, if Roma push, the price tag can get lowered. And if the price tag can get lowered, then look, we ended Dovbyk in the space of 5 days, offering 40 million. We ended Sule, not in the space of a few days, but still offering around 30 million. The answer here is, if Roma wants to spend, they spend. If Roma retain that Galeno is the perfect player for their system, then they spend 35 million. Because we've seen this with Dovbyk, we've seen this with Sule. So if De Rossi, Ghisolfi and the Fredkin sit down and say, you know what, Galeno is the player that's missing for my team. He's young. He's got the characteristics that De Rossi wants. His wages aren't particularly massive. If he's the player that they all agree on, perfect player, successfully fulfills their criteria for a new project, they spend the money. If they don't spend the money, then it means that maybe there are better options out there. And there are still other options. He's not the only one. There's still Chiesa, Wesley, Kasova. We've got a few options. What option is the best? That's the question right now. And then once you decide, you tackle. But of course, Juventus were leading the race. According to Di Marzio, it looks like Juventus have gone for Nico Gonzalez from Fiorentina. And they still need to sell Chiesa. So are they in a position to spend 35 to 40 million right now to sign Galeno? No, they're not. So if Roma anticipate, hijack, maybe they can get it done faster than Juventus. Of course, it's not easy, but, you know, we'll see what happens. Right, before we go on to the Pellegrini interview, I do want to answer one question because, of course, we need a left winger, but we also need a right back. And Sheva says, hi Simon, what right back would be a good realistic signing, seeming as Belanova is not going to join us? I wouldn't 100% exclude Belanova not joining us. I agree that it's more of a no than a yes. I don't think it's done, like collapsed. I just feel like, as always, as I mentioned a few moments before, Roma's gathering names right now. They should have gathered names before because right back was one of the first positions to cover. So yeah, I think, but then again, I was looking at this. I was reading this thing on Twitter of how De Rossi's got this idea. Sometimes, not in every game, because De Rossi's primary formation is a 4-3-3. In games where De Rossi wouldn't start a 4-3-3, I was reading this comment saying that De Rossi has an idea, whenever we start three at the back, to start with Mancini and Ndika, and a right back in the 3, and then use Angelino up top in the 5 midfielder. And, for example, no, because I don't think that's well explained. Let's say we want to play with a 3-4-2-1. 3-4-2-1. De Rossi has in mind of playing Mancini and Dica and the potential right back in the 3-man defence, and then play Angelino up high as an inverted left back, and another fast player up high, but not the right back. So if De Rossi in some games, so not counting a 4-3-3 formation, because in 4-3-3 formation, both Angelino and right back X name would start in the 4-man defence. But in games where De Rossi wants to start with a 3-man defence and use a right back to play in the 3-man defence, then I don't think Bellanova fits well in that formation. You know, I don't think Bellanova, if some games De Rossi wants to play with a 3 at the back and one of those 3 is a right back, Bellanova shouldn't be it, because Bellanova is somebody who needs to run. So I was looking at, because realistically, right back right now is tough because the market of right backs isn't massive. Because there are a lot of names are shit and a lot of names are very expensive. So you're like, who do we get? It's tough to come up with a name. I was looking at some players who clubs want to sell, and a right back who can play in a 4 defence but can also play in a 3 defence is Gertruida from Feyenoord. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen because he would be a great player, and I think Premier League clubs are interested in him. And Feyenoord, whenever in a million years would they ever want to give us one of their best players. But Gertruida, according to how De Rossi wants to play, should be the number 1 priority, right back. Then of course that doesn't mean that he plays every game perfectly, but Gertruida I'd consider. Apparently Feyenoord want to sell him for 20-25 million, but he's not a bad name at all. Thiago Santos from Lille is another one. Bellanova, I don't know who we buy. But we definitely have to speed it a bit up. Again, to beat Cagliari and Empoli, you don't need prime Carvajal. You can play and you can win with Cilic starting, even Buba starting. But of course, game week 3, you've got Juventus. So you need to have a right back, a proper right back, by game week 3, because game week 3 is away at Turin, and the last time we won away in Turin was, I think, World War II was still going on. So that's that. Right, and then the last thing is Pellegrini interview. He speaks up. He got asked about this relationship with Mourinho. Have you heard from Mourinho lately? And Pellegrini says no, there was no occasion. However, there are no problems between him and me. We have clarified everything. We said what we had to say to each other. I didn't speak publicly the days after he was sacked because things inside the locker room must remain that way. Then, since unfortunately there was a lot of false narration around it, I just want to say that I have always had a wonderful relationship with Jose. He had been told things about me that were absolutely not true. And the way I read it, in a moment of deep bitterness dictated by the sacking, he believed these rumors. There's no point in denying that when I saw his reaction, that when I saw the media kind of make up this story of the ring, putting it back in the Mourinho putting his Conference League ring in Mourinho's locker. There's no point in denying that when I read this, I was very disappointed. After all the emotions that we had experienced together, I would have preferred him to come and talk to me in person. So I did the only thing that I could do at that moment, since he had left Trigoria: take my phone and call him. We chatted for a long time and I understood what he was experiencing. I don't feel like going into the specifics of what we said to each other is right, but we made it clear that is the thing that matters. And for Mourinho will remain a coach who I will always thank for. Again, this is an This shows you that, and I think it's wrong that our captain is a victim of false narration, and the false narration is what makes a big part of the Roma fan base hate on him. I think again, I've always said this, but I think to explain this, Pellegrini is inheriting an armband coming from Totti and De Rossi. Pellegrini knows that he ain't no Totti and De Rossi. And Pellegrini suffers from this. Florenzi had the armband, yes, for a few months, and then he left. But that doesn't count. So, Pellegrini is the victim of this. Because, of course, when you've got Totti wearing the armband, and then passing it on to De Rossi, and then Pellegrini feels like, I will never reach their levels. And not reaching their levels puts a lot of responsibility and pressure on him. And more than pressure and responsibility, I think it's expectation. Because the Roma atmosphere and the Roma fan base are a complicated fan base. So I think, as always, the media pressure, the media hate that Pellegrini receives, and this is an example of it. When Mourinho was sacked, everybody started throwing bullshit around that Mourinho was sacked because of Pellegrini, that Pellegrini was the one who led Mourinho and the anti-Mourinho movement amongst their own players, that Pellegrini was the one after that Milan game back in Rome who went to the owner to ask for Mourinho to be sacked, that Mourinho had left this ring in Pellegrini's locker with a message on it saying, give me back this ring whenever you become a man, and that Pellegrini's got no balls, and that Pellegrini's got no balls to speak, and that Pellegrini's got no balls to justify why Mourinho was sacked, to justify why his decision of going to the owners and saying, sack Mourinho, the cycle is done. I think, look, and I don't hide the fact that there were tensions in the last period of Mourinho. I was the first one to say this when Mourinho was sacked. I think the reason Mourinho was sacked isn't because Pellegrini stood up, went to Dan Fredkin and said, mate, I can't deal with this anymore. I cannot deal with this shit anymore. Please sack that man tomorrow morning. No. I think the reason why Mourinho was sacked is because the owners themselves understood that the cycle was done and that the players were no longer following him. But that is different. If the players stop following a manager, number one, it doesn't mean that Pellegrini is the only one. Of course, he's the captain. He's the tiger of the situation. He's the guy you look at and you shoot at in this situation, and it's understandable because he's the captain. But asking for it and inevitably personally asking for it and inevitably asking for it are two different things. There were tensions in the last weeks between Mourinho and the players, 100%. There were tensions because something definitely broke. Of course, I agree on that part. And I don't think that is false narration. But false narration is describing a relationship between Mourinho and Pellegrini as if it's a Walking Dead movie. So, kind of my point here is I don't want to bring Mourinho back because Mourinho's gone. And I always say, never bring the past back. We're here to speak about the present and to think about the future. Mourinho's at a new club. We wish him all the best. Good luck to Fenerbahce. And hopefully Mourinho says the same things about us. But what I'm here to say is, I'm using this because this season, there are going to be numerous occasions where the media is going to pick on him again. Whereas the media is going to pick on Pellegrini again. Where Roma lose a game against Empoli and everybody clashes Pellegrini, weak captain, doesn't speak, doesn't score, doesn't shoot, doesn't fight, doesn't sweat. And, that's... The thing here is, it's unfair on him. He's not the perfect captain because we've had captains which, put more balls into the situation. Yes, absolutely. We've had more captains We've had more emotional captains. We've had more captains better captains that kind of spoke out loud to the team. Roma concede a goal. The captains want to kind of wake the team up. And I agree. Pellegrini isn't a massive communicator, but Pellegrini's our captain. Pellegrini's the captain of this team. And I think the captain needs to be respected, whether you like him or not. Whether he's the one who gets the hate the most out of all the team. I think the captain needs to be respected. And I think a team who could have a captain who is less tackled by the media would be revolutionary. Because an emotionally weak person like Pellegrini, if the media and the press stop attacking him week in and week out, I think the benefits can be seen on the pitch as well. So that's what I would say. If you can't buy right back, Sangare can't play at the youth. Thoughts on they get to Fiorentina. Fiorentina's having a good market. I don't like their striker. Ken, I don't think is a good striker. And they are about to sell Nico Gonzalez. So yeah, they've brought some interesting players in. Fiorentina are not going to be an easy team this season. With Galeno, Roma has the best attack of the league. Porto wants 40 million, but Juve also wanted 40 million for... That's exactly what I mean. You can drop the price. Galeno's 40 million, that's what Porto asks. You will fuck this transfer window. They have 3 weeks to do more than 10 transfers. Chiesa, yes or no? I don't know. We'll see what happens. Right, I'm going to catch you tomorrow. Everton tomorrow. Last friendly game of our pre-season. Last friendly game in England at Goodison Park. There will be a match reaction on it. So looking forward to it. Don't forget to hit the like. Subscribe to the channel if you want to join the Roma Theory 2024-2025 Serie Fantasy League. Click the link in the description below. Create your team. It's a 15-player squad. 11 starters and 4 bench players. You can't have more than 2 players from each club. You've got €100 budget. So yeah, if you want to do it, if you want to join and have fun this season, and if you want to join the Fantasy League, click the link and use the code in the description below to join the Roma Theory League. And yeah, season is about to start. 1 more week to go. Hopefully we buy somebody this week. I do think this week is going to be a signing week. Let's see what happens. Love you all. Take care. Enjoy your Friday night. And I'll speak to you all soon. Simo, out.